I'm currently sitting outside at work, and I wanted to record right now because I came to, why am I not vibing with myself right now? I came to a really deep realization the other day, and I was just sitting with it for a few days, but then this morning on my way to work I was overcome with like this deep fear again of rejection, and this deep fear of like unworthiness. So I've just been sitting outside gathering my thoughts, communicating a little with the other side, really with my highest self, and I figured maybe it was time to share my conclusion of what I came to about these feelings that tend to arise in me, in hopes that maybe they'll help someone else, or I don't know. Hopefully you can still hear me well. I'm that girl that sits outside at work and everyone like comes outside and like drives by like, what is she doing? The other day, if you watched my other video about the competitive nature and people who lose their parents or don't have their parents at a young age, I mentioned that I came to a couple realizations, and one being about like abandonment. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I was journaling and getting honest with myself about why I feel the way I feel, and certain like subconscious programmings that run inside my mind. Came to this crazy analogy and realization that when you struggle, I feel like mommy issues, motherhood traumas, abandonment from your mom is basically Frankenstein syndrome. So if you've ever read the book Frankenstein in high school or in school, in the book it's very different from like the movies, at least like the kid cartoons I usually see Frankenstein in. So in the novel, the man who created Frankenstein, once he brought him to life, he became in horror of his creation. He became so afraid of him. He like ran away from him, sent like people after him, like basically just as soon as Frankenstein came to life and he birthed his creation, which he originally wanted, he decided that he was afraid of it and that he no longer wanted him around, and he wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. So I came to this realization that the reason I struggle with like unworthiness and this huge fear of rejection, and I feel like I have this huge need to prove myself, is because I struggle with Frankenstein syndrome. So mentally, everything obviously happens for a reason and everything comes down to a feeling, but mentally this is the programming that I've had for almost 19 years. So I lost my mom around the age of 12, but she didn't pass away. So I feel like when you lose a relationship with somebody and it's not due to death, although I'm not taking anything away from that, it's a different kind of grief, especially when it's like your parent, because as a child you internalize everything and you from a young age don't see what's wrong with everyone else. You think everything is wrong with you, how the world responds to you. Children internalize everything. They don't have the concept of like being like, okay, well that's because of them. Everything is like, no, this is because of me. And so before I even lost my mom, a common like punishment that I would have would be to be ignored. Now granted, this is like way better than, I guess, in a sense, I mean, studies show that being ignored is like way more painful than physical abuse. But I'm not here to compare myself to anyone else's experiences and trauma. But so I was ignored a lot as a kid when my mom got upset with me, my parents got upset with me, for like pretty good periods of time. And so I have this one, not only abandonment that I struggle with, but this struggle that like to be seen, like this desire to be seen, because I feel like I've never been seen. And in the same sense as Frankenstein, I feel like the person who brought me to life, the person who created me, who brought me into this life, decided that like my existence was so insignificant or so like terrible. This is how I internalized it as a child, that it was easy to ignore me, to invalidate my existence, and two, that it was necessary to. So like my punishment, like when you do something wrong, that's your punishment, you equate that to like what you deserve. So I grew up feeling like, and still to this day feeling like, and having to work through this feeling that I deserve to be ignored. I deserve to be I deserve like any less recognition than anyone else. And so that makes me competitive. It makes me have a competitive nature, and it also makes me so anxious and care so much about what other people think, because all my life I've been trying to prove that I'm worthy of recognition. I'm worthy of my own existence. I've been feeling like I have to prove that I'm worthy of being here my entire life. I've been so fearful of like stepping on people's toes and not fully expressing myself and taking my feelings into account because I didn't want other people to like, what's the word? I don't know, like objectify my existence, or like, damn, I can't think of the word. Like this Frankenstein syndrome turns into like a people-pleasing like coping mechanism that becomes so like so deeply rooted. In the novel, Frankenstein tried so hard to prove to everyone that he wasn't a monster, but all they seen him was a monster. And I don't think people look at me and see me as a monster, but I think that's how I very deeply, very subconsciously internalize things. I'm always like concerned about how other people view me. I'm always worried about how I look to other people. Like I always think people are like worried about me or like paying attention to me, and it's very ego-centered, you know, but it's coming from not a place of confidence or arrogance. It's coming from a place of fear. And so it's like I feel as if my entire life I've been trying to prove not only that I'm worthy of being here, but like trying to prove that like I'm not a monster, and not only to other people but to myself. And that's a very, very deep realization to come to, and it's a very heavy feeling to sit with and to accept. But awareness, of course, is the first step in everything. In anything, awareness is the first step. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I came and I was blessed with this level of awareness. And so if anyone watching this struggles with maternal traumas, like if your mom, you know, same kind of situation as me, she's just not in your life at all, or you just don't have a good relationship with your mom, you feel like you're always being judged by her and like anything you do isn't good enough for her, I'm just here to tell you that you are worthy of your existence. No one here on this earth can validate that for you. Like you have to validate that for yourself, and no one here is in control of your destiny and your fate more than you are, more than you and I guess God are. You guys already created that before you came here. And this is, I don't know, some people might not want to hear this, but before you came into this life, you decided who was going to teach you the most crucial lessons of life. And if you chose to have a mother wound, then I want to empower you with this thought and encourage you to think in the way that if you have a mother wound, that is like the most deeply rooted wound I personally think you can have, and I'm not disregarding anyone else's traumas and anyone's, like, if they have, you know, fatherhood wounds, like anything, sexual trauma, like anything, I'm not relating them, but I'm saying that like a motherhood wound is so deep because this is the only person that you were connected to before you even came here. So when you have struggles in that relationship, you struggle with the idea that you are worthy of being here. Like, you struggle with the idea of being accepted on this earthly plane, because the person that brought you here, the person that opened the passageway to you for this life, feels like they don't accept you and they feel like they don't love you. It's like, how, if they don't love me, how can anyone else love me? And like, that's very heavy to sit with, but I want to encourage you and empower you to say, if you become aware of this and you're able to work with this and forgive yourself, because that's really what it comes down to, and learn to accept yourself, and you learn to embrace this and heal from it as much as you can and consistently throughout your life, I feel like personally we will be unstoppable. I feel like when you recover from this wound and you become aware of it and you put in the action to change the narrative in your brain, and you think everyone else is going to be the same way, once you like realize that and get over that and learn to parent yourself and embrace yourself and lift yourself up again, you are literally going to be undeniably incredible, because no one could ever validate you again. And that's just such a liberating ass feeling and a liberating reality to step into, when you realize that, you know what, it really sucks that I don't have a good relationship with my mom, or I wasn't blessed to have one at all. However, this is teaching me deeply that I am capable of doing amazing things on my own, and I'm capable of loving myself more deeply than anyone else could love me. Because when it comes down to it, you know, the love of a mother and child is so different, and when you feel like you don't have that, you weren't blessed to experience that in the way that you would have liked to, you become very, like, I think, conflicted when it comes to the idea of love, because it's like, that's the deepest love that we know when we come here. But when you move out of that and you learn to accept that, you realize the deepest love that you'll ever know is the love that you have for yourself. The deepest love you could ever have is for yourself. And as a parent, I'm still saying that. I love my son more than, in a way that no one could ever compare. However, I recognize in dealing in learning through and healing through my motherhood wounds, that I'm responsible of loving myself more than anyone else here, and that I'm deserving of that love. And my love really is the only love that matters. My love for myself is really, really, really the only one that matters, because at the end of the day, I'm still here. I've still done amazing things with my life, regardless of what I've been through and regardless of who hasn't been in my life. I've still turned out to be an incredible woman, and yes, I have so far to go, but you want to know what got me here? Myself. My self-love got me here. You know, just trying and not giving up on myself and validating myself, even when it was so difficult to, even when I didn't realize I was doing it, and even when sometimes I was invalidating myself. But you know what, I still got myself here. And although the person that brought me into this life isn't here with me, and it has a lot of pain to it, I recognize that I'm the only person on this earth that I'm gonna be with every second of the day, who's gonna leave this earth probably at the exact same time that I do. Hey guys, future me editing here. I just want to hop in quick because I know I didn't really wrap my thoughts up the way that I wanted to. So I was basically expressing the fact that if you have a motherhood wound and you are able to embrace it and learn how to cope with it and deal with it and heal it to a certain degree, since that is one of the deepest wounds you can ever have in your life, you are never going to waver in the judgment of anyone else ever again. When you can heal, really, really sit with and heal this abandonment wound and this Frankenstein syndrome that you had from your mother, the person whose opinion and whose love meant the most to you, whose safety and whose support meant the most to you. When you can be okay with not having that, you can be okay with not having that from anyone besides yourself. And that is the greatest power that you can have in this life, because you're no longer looking externally for someone to validate your existence. So I hope that clicked. I hope that makes sense. That's all I was trying to say. I don't know. I just hope that if some of you struggle with this maybe the way I do, you could find some closure in this, some stability, some peace in knowing that you're just as worthy as everyone else, and no one else could ever, no matter who they are, no one else can ever determine your worthiness. I just seen a butterfly. No one else could ever determine how worthy you are. No matter who they are, no matter what role they hold in your life, how important you are, at the end of the day, you are inherently worthy. And the amount of love you feel depends on the amount of love you're willing to give yourself. So I know this is not a video for everyone, and not everyone is probably even going to watch this to the end. And even if you did, not everyone's going to relate to this or resonate with it. But if you did, I'm really glad that you joined me for this conversation, I guess. Even though I'm really having it with myself, but I'm glad you're receiving this on the other end of the screen. And I hope that you move forward with greater grace today in knowing that you are the most important person in your life, and you have the capability of being and becoming whoever you want to be, whoever you choose to be. And self-exploration is the key to living, I feel like, a satisfying existence, because when you don't learn yourself and you don't question why you are the way you are, and you don't review the things that you've been through, and you don't sit with the feelings that you've been holding inside of you for so long, you become subject to living in a reality that you didn't even create, that's just subconsciously programmed in you, that you just feel like you have to live, or you just don't know any better. So I love you guys. I know this is me opening up about a lot of my pain, and maybe it's irrelevant, and maybe this video is only going to be for me, but I don't know. I just felt like it's necessary to talk about and get out and normalize having conversations like this with people who struggle, because this is the first time I've talked about this, really. I don't even talk about this really to my friends, my family, anybody. So I love you guys, and go sit with nature. Go breathe in that good ass prana, baby. I love you guys. Connecting with nature will also really help you connect with yourself, and feel free to always connect with me. I love you.